Hello and welcome to another episode of All Politics is Local. I'm your host, John Tian. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems. For more information about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, feel free to visit our website at www.gbvdems.org. With me in the studio tonight is John Sares and Joe, his interpreter from a tour in Afghanistan. John, Joe, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about, John, about your tour in Afghanistan. But first, let's just start off a little bit with where you are now, what you're doing right now.
I'm a resident of Milford, Massachusetts. I've been living here since about 2007, and I currently work as a prosecutor in the Worcester County District Attorney's Office.
Great, great. And so what kind of stuff do you do there? What kind of cases do you handle, that type of thing?
I'm an assistant district attorney in the Worcester Superior Court section, handling general felonies, and that can include anything from a robbery to a breaking and entering, narcotics or firearms.
Okay.
And I've been with District Attorney Early's office for about 4 years now since I came home from the war. Okay,
okay. And in Afghanistan, when you were in the Army, what was it you were doing there?
I'm still in the Army currently. I'm in the same unit as I was then. It's the 443rd Civil Affairs Battalion. I was a Civil Affairs Sergeant assigned to a few different units in Kandahar, Afghanistan.
Okay, and that's where you met Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
My job in the Army requires working closely with an interpreter because my job is to work with the civilians in whatever area we're in. And obviously in Afghanistan, English is not the first language. Mm-hmm. In fact, pretty much no one speaks English, so having a not just interpreter, but a very good interpreter is hugely important to accomplishing the mission.
Okay, so Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were doing with John over there in Afghanistan?
So my job was keeping relationship between civilian people and U.S. Army. I've been work with U.S. Army for 4 years. So that the third time I work with Civil Affairs with John and the whole team. We was close to the local nationals, Kandahar. We were the most dangerous area in Afghanistan. It's called Kandahar and Zara district. That was the village and the area where Mullah Omar born, where he started his first activities. And I'm from Kabul. I'm not from Kandahar. So I moved there and worked with the U.S. Army there for 3 years.
Okay.
So specifically what Civil Affairs does, it's most people don't even know it exists. It's a very small job, although we are the most heavily deployed job in the reserve force, or we were at the time at least. Our job is to go and attach ourselves to a large maneuver infantry unit, move out with them, go anywhere they go, and try and lessen the impact of our operations on the civilians, but also to keep the civilians sort of separate and out of the way of the battlefield. Okay. So it's not just about protecting the civilians, but also protecting the mission by making sure that the two groups, the U.S. Army infantry and the civilian populace, look, they're never going to be best friends, but if we can make it so that they're not actively helping our enemy, then that's a win for everybody.
Sure, sure.
That could have involved on any given day, Joe and I working to deliver aid to the civilians in the form of food or water or seeds for crops. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it was doing what we call battle damage payments. So if we were cutting a new road that we needed to build a new base, well, that road clearly went through someone's property.
Right.
So it'd be Joe and I's job to ascertain whose property that was.
Right.
No easy task in southern Afghanistan.
Sure.
And then trying to properly, to the best we could, pay them.
Right. For any damage to their property or
any
or
damage
loss of use or
right.
that type of thing.
And I'll tell you, the predominant language where we were was Pashto, and I speak almost no Pashto. That's why none of that was possible at all without Joe.
Without Joe's help. So now, since you've been back from Afghanistan, you worked very closely, very hard to get Joe here to the States. Can we talk a little bit about that kind of that journey that had to be an uphill battle?
It's and I'll let Joe tell his side. I'll say from here, it's a very frustrating process because you say I worked hard. There's actually very little I could do. It is like many things in government or in any large organization. There's a process, and you have to some extent wait it out. But I'll tell you, it's difficult when you, even just coming home, we have a creed in the Army, it's called the Soldier's Creed, and one of the key phrases, I'll never leave a fallen comrade. I'll never leave someone behind. And a lot of interpreters work with large units. They work with a platoon or a company of infantrymen, and they do form relationships. A civil affairs team that Joe was with, that I was with and that Joe was with, that's a 4-man team.
Okay.
There's 4 of us and Joe. And the 5 of us, we had a 5-man truck. We went everywhere together. Joe had his seat just like I had mine.
Yep.
And that's a 5-man team. We fought together for 9 months. And then just to say, okay, we're all done now,
Yeah.
and leave.
We're going home. Goodbye.
Right. It's wrong in so many levels, including on our own, on our own creed.
Sure.
So leaving Joe was not something that was easy, and particularly knowing how much he had given up, his own safety, his own relations there to do it. I wanted to bring him here. I never imagined it was going to take almost 4 years.
Right. So, Joe, your story on the trials and tribulations of coming to America.
So when I started working with the U.S. Army, I never think about it, that this was going to cause me a lot of problems. United States been in Afghanistan, their army there since 2002. They've been there until now. They are there. I started work with them. In 2009, and until 2014, I worked with them. So when I work with the civil affairs, as John said, we were all in touch with the civil people. We have Shora. We have people, they come to our base, American base, they say their problem, we solve their problems. They don't have like enemy there, they don't have uniform. Like U.S. Army, they have their uniform. They go there with rifle, everything open. Afghan National Army, they have their uniform, but our enemies there, they don't have any. They use the local national, like their clothes, everything. And I don't know, may they come and I maybe shake some of their hands. Hi, how are you, friend? They're between them.
Right.
I mean, and that's how they realize me, and they like remark me, and they follow me back to my home where I live in Kabul, and they find me where I live. They like put a letter for my dad to inform me that you can't work no more with Americans because you're helping pagans against our society. They occupy our country, and you're still helping them. And I was thinking about that. We are doing the right thing. Like we're building school for them.
Sure.
We're building for people clinics. We're building for them roads that they never had. We built everything for them. And there were some few people that they were bad, and they just see their benefits in danger, and they will fight. Not everybody doesn't fight. Some people fight, and some people fight for their benefits. They're not fighting for everybody.
Right.
So that's how I will come to my story. So they find me where I live. They put a letter in a mosque for me, for my family. They told me that you can't. I was on vacation, and after vacation, I just got back to my work like 15 days, and my dad called me that you have to come back to home. I said, why? It's just about 15 days I'm here. And usually I spend like 6 months, 9 months, and after that I went to. He said, we need you, you have to. Like, I said, okay, I will come. When I came back home and they tell me the story, and then I was like escaping. Like I didn't spend one night in one
Sure. In
place.
one location, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was in danger. My life was in danger because of this all right things that I done for my people, for my nation. On my view, in my opinion, I done a really good job for them.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
So this all caused me problem. And about the process, it's called SIV, the Special Immigrant Visa for people, for a person who work more than 1 year for U.S. Army under U.S. Army contract, under U.S. Army government contract. He qualified for this visa. So I think interpreter should to be the priority because they've been in battle. They work like a soldier. When I've been more than 21 years old, like they drop us from a helicopter behind the enemy lines. I've been in that. like more than 21 times.
Okay.
I've been with John like maybe 4 or 5 times. So I worked like 4 years, and he done his tour for 9 months.
Yep.
So I've been a lot of the. I worked like a soldier for not just. I'm not gonna say I work just for United States or U.S. Army. I choose that work. I'm not gonna blame anybody for that. I choose it. I would do it. So I done these good things for my nation too, for my people too.
Sure.
Not just for U.S. Army.
Sure.
So
Well, you see things like, you said things like, building schools.
Yes.
You see things like what happened to Malala Yousafzai in Pakistan, where she got shot because she wanted an education. And that's what disarms terrorists is education.
Joe and I opened up a school, well, not just the two of us, obviously, in concert with a lot of soldiers and a lot of other help, but we were part of the opening ceremony of a school twice, the same school.
Seems
Twice.
I don't know that anyone ever went to that school, at least not while I was there, they didn't, the one in Hausi Madad. But it's a 2-step forward, 1 step back, or maybe 3 steps back process sometimes. But to what Joe was saying, he put it on the line, and he mentioned earlier, this was a very kinetic, as we would say, very dangerous place. The village is the birthplace of the Taliban, where we were. It was Mullah Omar's mosque, his birthplace, and he founded the Taliban right where we stood.
Wow.
So this was very important ground
Yeah.
that we're in. We were with very high-powered infantry units we were attached to, and again, they were there for a reason.
Right.
And Joe did that work, and and I don't think Joe has ever expressed any discontent with the Army or the United States government. He's happy to be here and help them, but I think it's frustrating for anyone in the process because it takes a while.
Right, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about tonight was the fact that the vetting process for someone who's going to come to the United States as a refugee does take quite a while. There's so much rhetoric being spouted all over the place, all over the political spectrum these days about the refugees coming to America and how we should turn everybody away. Donald Trump famously wants to keep all Muslims out of the country, even Muslim American citizens who happen to be abroad at the moment. He says, well, we won't let them back in. Donald Trump is about the most dangerous person running for president that I've ever seen, and I
I'd
truly
like
hope
to
he
introduce him to
loses.
Joe.
Yeah, me too. So that vetting process, then you said before it took about 16 months or so for you to go through that to get the SIV.
I think immigration is American culture. You can't just leave your culture. That's your culture. My Donald Trump's grandfather was a refugee for this country. I think. So. Yeah, it's take a long time. At first step, they will ask you for like a recommendation. Who the unit you work with, or officer, they will recommend you like you are not threat for national security. You've done a good job. You've been loyal. All my tour, like in 9 months, I didn't see any negative point is in personality or his work. He been like honest with us. He did a good job. The first, and the second one is a verification later, like. For the company that you work for more than 1 year. That's the second step. And the third one is like you need to write a threat later. They ask you for proof. You need to prove it that I've been threatened and my life is in danger. You need to prove that. And then when this all complete, you send these documents to and then it's gonna take probably, for me, it took like 4 months that they approve, yeah, you qualify for this process. And then it take like I-360 as a form, and then DS-260. This is the second form, and after that, they interview me for 2 times in the U.S. Embassy in Kabul for all background checks and cell phone numbers and everything. Besides that, my life is in danger, and everybody proved me. I have approval. I qualify for this visa, and still they're doing the background checks. I'm not gonna say they don't need to do that, but it's not. This take for me 16 months. In 16 months, I'm in danger. I'm moving everywhere, and they're not giving me a specific question like yes or no. Just tell me yes, no, so I can find out what should I do.
Mm-hmm.
With all the, and you mentioned the politics, and with all the political football that refugees are right now, or people coming, I'll leave that to the people who are having those arguments. I hope that they could all get together and say, these interpreters, there's thousands of them who weren't just part of the fight, they were integral to what I did. Like I said, my mission, it would make no sense for us to even leave the wire, to go outside the base without Joe or an interpreter.
Sure.
When Joe would go on break for a few weeks, we would have to have another interpreter.
Sure.
It just,
sure.
we're useless without it.
Yeah.
And that's true for so many jobs in the military. Anything that is outside of our very little base is you need someone that can speak the language.
Yep.
And Joe happens to speak 6 of them.
Wow. Where did you get all your language training, Joe?
So, school and 2 languages like Pashto and Persian. That's Pashto is my native language. Persian, in school I learned it. I've been in Russia, I pick up Russian there, Arabic, and English, and Urdu, and Punjabi. Those are the languages that I speak, and I can read and write some of them, not all of them. So I would say I have kind of talent that God gave me. I pick up languages.
It's very good.
That's fantastic. From what I understand, being multilingual or bilingual is actually really good for your brain. There's a highly, it's less likely, that is, that you'll develop Alzheimer's or any of those brain elements later in life because you use so much of your brain. It kind of keeps it clean.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, he picked up languages really well, and even just being here, he's been living with me and my family now for the past about 6 weeks, or maybe getting closer to actually almost 2 months now. I told Joe when the day he got his visa approved, I happened to be on a drill weekend with the Army. It was a Saturday or a Sunday, I think it was a Sunday, and we were able to communicate most of the time through Facebook.
Okay.
It's the miracles of social media. The way that I was able to communicate with my interpreter from Afghanistan was through Facebook. And he was able to use the Facebook program that allows you to make a phone call, essentially. Okay. And call me and tell me that he got his visa approved. And I'll tell you, I was at a drill weekend, and I was actually hoarse, and I was ill. I had a cold that weekend, and I was in a Humvee, which is really loud. And here's Joe, he was broken up, and I was broken up. He was trying to tell me, and I could barely talk anyway, and in this loud Humvee that he was coming. And he said, John, okay, I can come to America now. Where should I go? And I said, Joe, he said he could wait for 90 more days, and they could send him over here and situate him somewhere. Yeah. I said, Joe, buy a plane ticket.
Yeah, come to my house.
Come to my house. Said, my house is open. I said, don't wait 9 more days. Right. I said, because I can't have you getting hurt over there while we're waiting. Right. For 3 more months.
That would be seriously a tragedy. That would be awful.
I was very lucky. I'm very happy. A lot of people say, "Oh, John, what you're doing is so nice for him." I feel like I'm the lucky one, having Joe come. And what an experience! I have 3 sons, 6, 4, and 6 months, and what an experience for them. Sure. To another culture, someone who speaks another language, and they're forever changed for the better.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And my wife has been great through all of this. It was never even a question for us. Mm-hmm. It was never, well, should we or if can we get him here.
Excellent. That's great.
I'm very glad, and I appreciate John. Every interpreter don't have John. I have John. He helped me a lot.
Sure.
He did everything that he could. He did it for me, and I appreciate for everything that he done for me. Mm-hmm.
So I understand you've started a new job.
Yes, I'm working in a local business here as a cashier.
Excellent.
Yeah, today we had a Brazilian there. He came, as you say, when you speak a lot of languages, and we asked him, what's your name? And he said, Morales. And the lady right behind me, she was asking, what's your name again? I said, his name is Morales. And she was like, how you pick it up like that fast?
Joe's picking up Portuguese.
So now you're going to pick up some Portuguese. Sure. Might as well, right?
Yeah. And Joe's, we're going to start teaching the boys how to speak maybe some Arabic or some Pashto,
sure.
And because why not?
Well, because why not? Exactly.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, talk about having a free tutor in the home.
Yeah.
But Joe started work 2 days ago, so he's been in the country less than 2 months, and he has a job. He has a permit. He'll get a driver's license as soon as he and I can have 5 minutes to just go drive around. He could drive. It's just maybe a little bit of American experience.
Sure, yeah, a little bit of American roads and American
England experience.
Yeah, New England experience, which is special unto itself. But I'll also say that for any of those people who doubt the desire of immigrant populations coming to America, Joe's a shining example. he wasn't here a week. He hadn't even adjusted to the time zone and the altitude yet, and he was saying, John, when can I get a job? When can I go to school? And sitting, in my house during the day while we went to work was killing him. And Joe's been desperate to find a job, and I knew someone would hire him. I knew as soon as they met him, they would hire him. And to be sure, the first place he interviewed instantly saw the value of someone who can speak 6 languages and has a great work ethic, and hired him right away. But if everyone in America, whether an immigrant or born here, had that desire to just go to work and go to school, I think we'd all be a lot better off. And I think a lot of people should be able to appreciate the fact that someone who's not been here 60 days has a job and is a few steps away from having a driver's license. And I can't imagine if I moved to a country that wasn't my first or second or even third language, that I would have gainful employment in less than 2 months.
Right. Now, Joe, you need some driving experience with snow on the road, right? Is that the the next big thing?
Yeah, that's a big thing. I drove in snow, but here is gonna be more snow. I heard like last year was a ton of them.
Yeah.
Last winter was legendary.
And I've told Joe.
I brought some hard weather from Afghanistan. That's
Okay.
how we don't have it.
I told if he had moved here last January, he would have already moved back to Afghanistan at this point, because there was nothing. I wanted to move back to Afghanistan last winter with the snow we had.
Our highway surveyor here in town, I was talking to him one day about that winter. It was about last spring, and I asked him, how'd you do on the snow removal budget? And he laughed.
Yeah.
And then he said, essentially we got 2 winters worth of snow in 7 weeks.
Right.
And that's really what happened to us last winter. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us again this winter, because that was pretty nasty, and I'm really not looking forward to that. So Joe, what are your hopes for the future now that you're here in America?
For future, I have a lot of hopes. So I would think it's come true. I have dreams. Yeah, I would say like that. I graduated from high school. I would like to continue with college, here in America, and I'm trying very hard. I think I will. So, I have plans.
Good for you. And what surprised you the most about America? What's surprised you the most so far?
About America is freedom. I can walk everywhere I want it. I can do whatever I want it under the law, but I can do whatever I want to do. I'm not gonna concern. I'm walking around. Somebody gonna shot me. That was a big concern of mine.
That's something that people really need to remember these days, is that we are a nation of immigrants, right? Yes. And that's what gives America strength. Our strength is in our diversity, and our diversity of thought, and our diversity of ideas. Really, as a nation of immigrants, we should be welcoming more people to this country. There was a thing on YouTube the other day of a Canadian family that took in a family of Syrian refugees. They took the kids out sledding for the first time. And those kids, the joy on their faces was, you could feel it coming through the video screen.
I'm sorry, Joe, I haven't taken you sledding yet, but we'll work on that.
He'll take the boys sledding.
Yes, right. Well, I'll tell you, and I mentioned already, my 3 sons, at least the one of them is an infant, but the other 2, I mean, you should see him. He's like a great big brother already, and they, and I'll tell you, it's been helpful to my wife and I, because when you have 3 children and 2 parents, you're normally on zone defense, but we brought in someone from the bench. We brought in our Afghani Joe.
Your Afghani stand-in.
Right, and he's very helpful. The baby goes to him more than he comes to me, I think.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said too about authority figures. There's that stepping order, right? I'm the 6th child out of 7, and they say that the reason I have the sense of humor that I have is because I had so many authority figures ahead of me. It was the only defense I had was to make them laugh.
Sure.
So,
I love them. I have 8 brothers in my family. I grew up with them.
Yep.
I have them. I don't miss them a lot. They make me to don't miss them. I love them.
And I thought after a little bit of time with my 4-year-old that he'd be anxious again to move back to Afghanistan because he's a bit of a character. But no, Joe and him get along great.
Great. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about what do you think you want to study in college? Do you have any ideas?
IT or management, that's too. those are my goals.
Okay.
I'm good at it.
I was in IT for years. I highly recommend it. Great career. The only problem that I have was I was stuck on the mainframe platform, and all those good mainframe jobs, they've moved overseas. They're being done in India and in China these days. So my job moved overseas. I could probably move to India and make a decent living, but I don't want to move to India. You know,
It's hard there.
it is
For someone living in New England.
I'll tell you, the very first day Joe was here, for better or for worse, I took him with me to court. I was working in the Dudley court at the time, and I said, Joe, I don't want to. You've been in America all of 12 hours. I don't want to just leave you to your own devices to my house. Come with me. And I went to the Dudley court, and a coworker of mine said, well, and just to show you what he's already learned and the freedom he's talking about in just 57 days, I think, since then, a woman I work with said, well, what do you want to study? And he said, well, I'll take a test, and whatever they tell me I'm going to study, I'll study. And we said, no, that's not what we do here. Here, right, wrong, or indifferent, you get to choose what you do. And you might make your mistakes, but you'll make them.
Yeah.
And they'll be your mistakes, but you choose.
Right. Right.
And
we all learn by mistakes.
Right. And
you
but
know?
the fact is that he's already understanding differently now that I'm an American, and I get to choose what I want to do. I can walk down the street and not get shot at. I can work where I want to.
Right.
And
right.
I think I'm excited for him.
I am too. And Joe, welcome to America. Thank you both so much for coming in. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Joe, welcome to America, and good luck with everything. I hope everything works out for the best for you. You've been watching All Politics is Local. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems. To learn more about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, feel free to visit our website at www.gbvdems.org. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Good night.